The M4 medium tank, Sherman, is the main American medium tank of the World War II period. It was widely used in the American Army at all places of combat operations, and was also supplied in large quantities to the Allies, primarily Great Britain and the USSR. In the U.S. Army, the M4 was in service until the end of the Korean War. The tank received the name Sherman in honor of the American Civil War General William Sherman, after which this name was assigned to the tank in the American and other armies. The M4 became the main American tank platform during World War II, and a large number of special modifications, self-propelled guns, and engineering equipment were created on its basis. In total, from February 1942 to July 1945, about 50,000 Shermans were produced, and it became the second tank after the T-34 in terms of the number of vehicles produced. By the beginning of the Second World War, the United States approached without having in production and in service any model of medium or heavy tank, except for 18 M2 pieces and 94 M201 tanks. Enemy tanks were supposed to be destroyed by anti-tank artillery or self-propelled anti-tank guns. The M3 Lee medium tank, urgently developed on the basis of the M2 and put into production, did not satisfy the military already at the development stage, and the requirements for a new tank designed to replace it were released on August 31, 1940, even before the completion of work on the M3. It was assumed that the new tank would use M3 units already worked out and mastered by industry, but its main gun would be located in the turret. The prototype, called T6, appeared on September 2, 1941. The T6 retained many of the features of its predecessor M3, inheriting from it the lower part of the body, the design of the chassis, the engine, as well as the 75mm M2 tank gun. Unlike the M3, the T6 received a cast hull and a classic layout with the placement of the main armament in a rotating cast turret, which relieved it of most of the disadvantages inherent in the M3 design. The tank received the designation M4, and in February 1942 its serial production was started. Despite the fact that the tank was supposed to be equipped with an M3 gun, due to the unavailability of the new gun, the first tanks received a 75mm M2 gun. The M4 was simpler, more technologically advanced, and cheaper to produce than the M3. The cost of various variants of the M4 ranged from $45,000 or $50,000 in 1945 prices. To date, it is $765,000 to $850,000, and was about 10% lower than the cost of the M3. The most expensive was the M4A3E2 Sherman Jumbo. It cost $56,812 or $965,800 for today. The M4 tank had many modifications. Almost all variants of the tank were produced in parallel, and the M4A1 is not the predecessor of the M4A2, it just has other components of the gun and body. Basically, these were tanks equipped with 75mm, 76mm, and 105mm guns, and various modifications had their own changes: armor thickness, engine. The M4A3E8 model, which is shown in the movie Fury, which was called EZ-8, became very famous. M4A3E8 is distinguished by an improved HVSS chassis, armament, 76mm gun M1, a new turret, and reinforced frontal armor. The UK became the first country to receive the M4 under the Lend-Lease program, and the first to use these tanks in combat. In total, the British received 17,181 tanks of almost all modifications, including diesel cars. The USSR became the second largest recipient of Shermans. In the USSR, 3,938 Shermans were delivered under Lend-Lease, 164 were lost when escorting convoys to the northern ports of the USSR. The Sherman tanks coming under Lend-Lease were well received by Soviet tankers. Particularly noted was the convenience of the crew compared to Soviet tanks, as well as the very high quality of instrumentation and communications equipment. Several dozen Shermans participated in the Battle of Kursk, 38 M4A2 as part of the troops of the 48th Army, and 29 Shermans as part of the 5th Guards Tank Corps. Starting in the spring of 1944, The Shermans took part in almost all battles on all fronts of the Great Patriotic War. In addition to Great Britain and the USSR, Shermans were supplied under Lend-Lease to France 755 units and Brazil 157. Canada, in addition, had its own production of the M4 modification of the Grizzly tank. It can be said that among its analogs, Sherman stood out primarily for the simplicity and manufacturability of the design, combined with high manufacturing quality. This allowed it to become, along with the T-34, the main tank of the Second World War.